This is one of the most famous robberies in military history. Two slave transport planes secretly sneaked into an abandoned base in Libya under the cover of the night and then ran out of the box. God knows who took the advanced Soviet MiG-25 self-propelled armored helicopter. After the success, the C-5 transport plane secretly transported it back to the United States overnight. This is the first time in the 1980s that the United States has been known as the pioneer of the dark industry, and it is a vulgar military operation. Today we will take the opportunity to talk about the whole process of this dark industry operation. Time goes back to June 10, 1988. It was a night with a high moon and a dark wind. Under the black night, two large C-5 nuclear transport aircraft of the US Air Force's D-160 Special Forces were flying to an airport called N'Djamena in the south of the Republic of Saudi Arabia. Inside one of the C-5 transport aircraft, there were two disassembled MH-47 Jinugan transport helicopters and more than 70 special assault team members. These assault team members are well trained and fully armed, but very few people know their true identities, only knowing that they have a nickname called the Triangle Special Forces. More than 30 hours later, these two C-5 transport aircraft successfully arrived at the Jadin main airport and were about to land. A huge tire made a hissing sound on the runway, breaking the silence of the night. Then, the C-5 strongly deployed the anti-aircraft, causing the fuselage to stop quickly. The ground crew quickly pulled the two Jadin main aircraft out of the C-5's belly, quickly completed the assembly and filled it with fuel. When everything was done, the sun had already appeared on the horizon. All the assault team members quickly boarded the Jadin main transport aircraft. Then, the two transport aircraft took off and flew deep into the desert. Their goal this time was to land at an abandoned Libyan airbase in the northeast of Jad, 150 kilometers away. The mission target was a Soviet MiG-25 heavy armored helicopter parked on the ground level. If everything goes well, they will complete the most dangerous robbery in military history by this time tomorrow. At the same time, the advanced troops preparing for this operation are waiting anxiously at the abandoned base of Wadi al-Dum. A huge helicopter is extremely conspicuous on the parking lot not far away. It is the MiG-25 heavy armored helicopter, which is a manned flying tank. Its powerful firepower and mobility are a threat to the Western countries. It was the heaviest armored helicopter in the world at the time, so it also has another powerful name, the Devil's Tank. It is not only an armored helicopter, but it can also be used to transport supplies. It is the most advanced helicopter of the Soviet Union at the time. At the same time, the United States has also been fond of it for a long time, and has put a lot of effort into it, and now it's lying here. The Americans must use the fastest speed to secretly transport it back to the United States before Lydia's army discovers it. At this time, the two helicopters have arrived. Then the assault team jumped down and ran non-stop to the MiG-25, cooperating with the hard-to-reach ground crew, and clearly removed the propellers, and fixed all the components with a rope. At this time, the soldiers were watching closely with binoculars. Suddenly, through the binoculars, they found that two Libyan military helicopters were not far away from the patrol, and that they might find the situation here at any time. So all the personnel sped up their movements. Because the MiG-25 helicopter was too big, it could not fit into the inside of the conveyor belt, and could only be hung. So one of them slowly rose to the top of the MiG-25 and slowly lowered the altitude. The soldiers hung the conveyor belt on the hook below the binoculars so that it could rise. As a result, the driver, who was tired of driving, pressed the accelerator with one foot, and nearly 8,000 horsepower burst out at once, dragging the MiG-25, which weighed 8.5 tons, swaying to rise slowly. When the MiG-25 was steadily lifted to the top, the rest of the assault team quickly boarded another Jinugan. The two transport aircraft were fully powered, flying directly towards the N'Djamena airport. At this time, the Libyan army was unaware of all this. The journey to the N'Djamena airport, which was more than an hour long, should have been very smooth. Who knew that they would encounter a huge sandstorm in the middle of the journey? The sandstorm was so violent that it almost enveloped them. The heavy outer armor of the slaves was also swaying in the sandstorm. The two slaves had no choice but to run with the sandstorm. Fortunately, before the sandstorm almost consumed them, the two transport planes finally landed safely at N'Djamena airport. There was almost no delay in between. Later, they put this stationery into the long-awaited C-5 transport plane. Meanwhile, two other Chinooks were also loaded into another C-5. the two C-5 transport planes once again took off, and 36 hours later, the aircraft and personnel of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment involved in the mission were back on American soil. Since then, this Night Stalker military operation was completed successfully in 67 hours. The US military did not waste a single shot and not only acquired the coveted quality helicopters, but also actually tested the great value and potential of the special Chinook transport helicopters in such special operations. Despite the sandstorm weather during the mission, the Chinook helicopter still successfully completed this transport mission,